Black Myth Wukong is a game where you play as a monkey who's canonically only 4'1", and this pig guy is actually 9'10". But when they stand right next to each other, it looks like this. I knew Astrobot deserved the win. Black Myth Wukong, or BMW, is a game that's depth really only extends to two things: combat and exploration. Luckily, this game happens to be great at both. The boss fights in this game are absolute peak, and considering this game feels like a boss rush most of the time, that's a pretty good thing. The bosses have a great variety of extremely cool and unique designs, while also giving some incredibly challenging fights. While there are some gimmicky ones, I'm happy to report that none of the hardest fights in this game were because they were lazily designed to throw a bunch of gimmicks at you at once. In classic Souls-inspired fashion, some of my favorite fights in this game were also some of the most challenging. The Yaksha King and the Yellow Loon were fights that took me a while to accomplish, but they had my favorite level of boss design, that being attacks that can be difficult to dodge but easy to read. Every time I died to these bosses, it felt like it was by my own fault and not something the boss made up out of thin air. Most fights in this game are like this, where the attacks are mostly obvious, but it's up to you, the player, to lock in and avoid it. It also helps that most of the fights give you plenty of time to attack the enemy yourself. Fights in other games, that give you little to no windows to fight back just aren't fun, and this game luckily gives you plenty of opportunities to completely just bonk the enemy. While most fights, I'd say, are pretty solid, I'll admit there are a few duds. Yellow Brow was one where I'll admit I thought was going to be an extremely gimmicky fight because he would go into an invincible phase for extended periods of time and not give you much opportunity to do damage. Once I found out, though, that using Spellbinder plus a heavy attack knocked him out of his invincible phase, the fight became a breeze. While I enjoy the fact that certain game mechanics are way better against bosses than others, I do find it kind of annoying that if I didn't Google that fight, it would have been a miserable one to go against. Speaking of mechanics, though, the combat mechanics are the bread and butter of this game. As this game goes on, you unlock more and more spells, and this is when the combat really opens up. A spell that opens so many doors alone is the spell that completely freezes your enemies. This is Immobilize. You can use this time to breathe for a chance to heal or to charge up an attack, or just use another spell. It's all up to you. There's a spell that can be used as a parry when timed right, and it can completely stun the enemy. There's another one that makes multiple clones of you, which can maximize damage as well as potentially stun lock the enemy. There's another spell that can turn you into a horse with a fire whip. You don't want to even use spells and just want to do full guns blazing with damage? Well, there's actually a spell for that. It's called Spellbinder. In a game when you're married to the same weapon the entire time, having spells keeps the gameplay fresh, and managing them successfully mid-fight can make each enemy encounter all the more addicting. Using an insane combo of spells back-to-back on a boss can change the tide of a fight, and pulling it off can feel absolutely amazing. It helps that, in general, the base fighting is also just really fun. Even without the spells, the combat with the staff is extremely satisfying. The animations and the sound design make pulling off a combo so addicting, and the same could be said for the feeling of getting a perfect dodge. The other side of this game is the exploration. Wukong takes on a style where instead of dropping you in an open world, it gives you multiple paths to go down that eventually lead to more paths while also looping around to the old ones. While it's not quite a Metroidvania, which is my personal favorite style of exploration in a game, this style of exploration is also still my kind of thing. I much prefer a more linear direction that allows multiple branches of exploration as opposed to just a massive open world that can feel overwhelming. I feel like Wukong's style of exploration is a nice middle ground between that open world I just mentioned and just a straight linear game. If I had to give a criticism towards the exploration, I'd say that there's way too many invisible walls to the point it could be a little excessive. But other than that, the exploration is pretty fun, and it's nice going through paths you might have missed to find upgrades or materials, or better yet, another really fun boss fight. There are also plenty of quests and NPCs to meet on the way as well, and these can lead to some pretty cool segments of the game. But sadly, this game does kind of do the crappy stunt of kicking you out of the quests if you don't do it in a certain time frame in your playthrough, which is a real shame considering I probably would have gone for 100% Wukong if it weren't for that. But the side quests are still pretty fun though, and I'd say the coolest ones, the ones that give you like secret areas and most of the secret bosses, don't lock you out of the quests later in the game. So the best ones don't lock you out, which is good. In terms of the narrative of the game, I'll admit I really only understood like half of it. I've heard from people who do actually understand what's going on that the story is pretty cool, but I was mostly just clueless. I don't know if it was because I just wasn't paying attention enough, or it's just because I don't have the base context of the story of Journey to the West, but I didn't understand most of the things that were happening. Still, even if I don't know the context of most of it, I think the setting is still super cool. And I gotta admit, the animations between chapters look phenomenal, just incredibly well animated. And the cutscenes of Wukong's past, they go pretty hard. So maybe I should read Journey to the West. This makes it look like a banger. Also, even when I didn't know what was going on, the music and the soundtrack of this game had me going wild. So all in all, BMW is a game that I'd highly recommend. It's got some great combat, some fun exploration, pretty cool setting. It's genuinely, well, it was nominated for Game of the Year last year, and I think it's pretty understandable to know why. I mean, it won Player's Choice, and I don't blame it. It's really good. And at the end of the day, it's hard not to like a game where you play as a 4'1" monkey beating people with a stick. I'd give it a solid 9 out of 10. Should it have won Game of the Year? No. Helldivers should have won it, and it didn't even get nominated. Screw you, Game Awards. Jeff Keighley works for the automatons, I'm telling you.